Hello YouTube, it's SnowflarkyZemos here, and I'm coming at you today with an update to my Skill Drain Beatdown deck profile. We got the new ban list here going into the February 2022 format, and by some strange decision at Konami, they decided to give us back 3 Skill Drain. Skill Drain has been one of my favorite cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I know it's a very unpopular card, but when you play a lot of decks that are trap card oriented and not combo like I do, cards like Skill Drain are just awesome tools to have that give your deck a win con and actually let them have a fighting chance against a combo deck. So I am definitely going to take advantage of Skill Drain while it's at 3. I'm not sure based on the based on the fact that most people don't enjoy it. I don't know if we'll be able to keep Skill Drain at 3. So we'll just play it as long as we can, and we're going to have a good time with it. So Skill Drain is a card that just negates all monster effects on the field, and this is a Skill Drain stun beatdown deck. So we're going to use some monsters that take advantage of that, like Beast King Barbaros, that we can just summon out of our hand without tributing. They would normally take an attack loss, and Skill Drain is going to rectify that. And put them right back at what their original attacks were. That combined with a lot of other trap cards can just slow the game down to where your opponent can't pop off, and then that will allow us to use our large attack monsters to just beat down pretty quickly. So with that said, let's get through the card by card. First, let's take a look at the monsters. I am playing 3 copies of Beast King Barbaros. Beast King Barbaros is a go-to classic in this type of Skill Drain beatdown deck. It's a 3000 8-star attack monster that you can normal summon without tribute, and if you do, normally its attack would be 1900, but with Skill Drain, its attack will stay at 3000, so it just becomes a 3000 attack monster that you can normal summon. And when you're slowing the game down to only a monster summon or 2 per turn, 3000 attack is pretty powerful. It can attack over most things. Next up, I am playing 2 copies of Fusillar Dragon, the dual mode beast. This is a 2800 attack monster that when you normal summon would normally become 14, but with Skill Drain it becomes back to 28. Pretty awesome. Some people play Knight Express Knight in this slot, which is that 3000 attack train that you can normal summon it without tribute and it gets 0 attack. I like Fusillar a little more just because if you don't have Skill Drain on the board yet, at least 1400 attack is better than 0, and the only trade-off is 2000 less attack. That's fine. I'll take it. I also think the artwork of Fusillar Dragon is pretty cool anyway, so very glad to be playing that. And last for our monster count, I am playing 2 copies of Segmental Dragon. This is a Cyburst monster that has 2600 attack. You can normal summon or set without tribute, and its attack would become half. But, of course, with Skill Drain, you can just play it and have a 2600 attack monster. What's cool about Segmental Dragon is that this one being a Cyburst, this one being Fusillar being a machine, and Barbaros being a Beast Warrior, means that we have room to play There Can Only Be One in our deck, which is a very powerful card. That will win you a lot of games. Now, what's pretty sweet about Segmental Dragon is that it does have an effect that if this card is normal summoned or set on your field, which it's always going to be normal summoned, you can destroy this face-up card, and if you do, all monsters in your monster zone, in the main monster zone with attack less than or equal to the attack of this card had on the field. So if your Skill Drain gets removed, you have a quick pop effects. Now the destroying itself isn't for cost, so you can't do that under Skill Drain, but that effect could come in handy sometimes. So just keep that in mind if it's the option for you. And that is it for our monsters. We are playing a low monster count because this is a stun Card of Demise style deck, and without combos we don't want too many or we'll brick. Next, we are looking into our spell cards. Starting off, I am playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Turn 6 extra deck cards into a draw 2, give you a +1. That's pretty good. We want card advantage. We can't use our extra deck that much, so we're pretty happy to, get some draws off of it instead. Next is our 1 copy of Card of Demise. Since we have a low monster count, lots of trap cards, Card of Demise is a natural fit in this deck. Draw cards until you have 3 in your hand, and then for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent does not take any damage. During the end phase of this turn, you have to send every card in your hand to the graveyard, and you can't special summon the turn you activate this card. So, you don't special summon very much in this deck. There's not really a way to special summon at all, so that's not really a drawback. And, being able to draw 3 cards is pretty awesome. Now, we can't use it on the same turn as Extravagance, because Extravagance says we can't use any more draw effects after Extravagance. But, if we don't have Extravagance, or if we draw a card of Demise for a reload, it's very, very powerful. And last up for our spells, just a little consistency booster. I am playing 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality reveals the top 3 cards of your deck. You add 1 to your hand and shuffle the rest back in. Since that is not drawing and adding, that does work if you've already played Pot of Extravagance. And this will be used to get us a key card that we need. Normally, whichever trap card we need that is really going to, lock our opponent out of a lot of options or protect a lockdown that we may already have on the board. Just to find that key piece. Duality is great, especially since we're not special summoning, so that drawback is not even much of a drawback. Next, we are going to take a look at our trap cards. Starting off, we are playing 3 copies of the namesake Skill Drain. Skill Drain, very powerful card. You pay 1,000 life points, and as long as this card remains face up on the field, you negate the effect of effect monsters that are on the field. So this card allows all your monsters to maintain their original attack when you normal summon them from your hand. That's awesome. And then, of course, on top of that, while Skill Drain is on the field, your opponent can't use any monster effects. And that is a very powerful effect, but there's so many combo decks and, searching and just, monster effects are everywhere. So being able to turn them off really allows you to take advantage of the fact that you just have really easy to access big attacks. And, is a game-winning card, very powerful. Very cool to have in decks like this, and being able to play this back at full power is pretty sweet. Next up, another win con this deck can play because of this build. There can be only one. That just is a trap card that says each player can only control 1 monster of each type, which is pretty good. It means we can't have 2 Barbaros on the field because they're both Beast Warrior. We can only control 1, but we can have a Barbaros and a Fusillar Dragon and a Segmental Dragon. So because there's so many of these skill drain beaters that are different types, I figured there can only be one would be a great card. If you don't have skill drain yet, this is another great way to really hinder a lot of decks. There can only be one is incredibly powerful, and since I could build this deck to play it, I figure I might as well. Definitely gives it a boost. Next up, continuing with our Floodgate Trap cards, I am playing 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Once you have Skill Drain and a monster set up and you have some stuff set up, Anti-Spell Fragrance is a pretty powerful card, especially since we're not playing too many spells. It just means that both players have to set spells, and they can't activate the set spells until their next turn. So it delays spell cards by a turn. That can really hinder an opponent's opening play. And, if you can deal with the face down spells, it'll hurt their follow-up play. There's a very powerful card that this deck can take advantage of, so figure we might as well be playing it. Next up, this card is kind of suspect, but I do have 1 copy of Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos is just a continuous trap that makes all cards that would be sent to the graveyard banished instead. This is pretty nice because we don't care if our cards get banished. We know we're not really recycling anything from the graveyard. And, of course, that hurts a lot of decks that use the graveyard as essentially a second hand, and especially if there's graveyard effects that might go off and destroy your skill drain. Macro can be very powerful in there, but this one could be flip-flopped. I do think once you're beyond 3 floodgates, it's a little excessive, so this one could be just flipped for just more protection or a different trap card. Up to you. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. You know, when you're playing these stun-based decks, you got very fragile locks. You know, back row removal is your enemy. Harpy's Feather Duster is your enemy. So you need to be packing cards that can say no to that. Solemn Judgment is such a card. You just pay half your life points to negate a spell trap or a monster summon. And, you know, don't burn these willy-nilly unless you think you're going to end the game. But, you know, having these for the right card can help stop the limited outs your opponent will have to your board. Next up, continuing with the Solemn line, I am playing one copy of Solemn Warning. It's just 2,000 life points to negate a summon. Pretty cool. When you know, with all the floodgates, the game slows down drastically, so being able to answer the monster or two your opponent may be summoning on their turn just means that you can leave them with an open board to punch them in the face with your really big attack monsters. And you know, when you're playing a deck like this, you got to end the game quickly. You know, you have to be able to end the game quickly before they get their outs. Next up, I am playing 2 copies of Waking the Dragon. This is definitely a call for my scene. Waking the Dragon is a trap card that just says if this set card in its owner's control is sent to the graveyard or banished because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a monster from your deck or extra deck. So if you you know, if you get Harpy's Feather Dustered or you know a Lightning Storm on your opening board, but you have a Waking the Dragon set, you can get a big punishment on your opponent by summoning just a really powerful monster. Now all of the monsters we're summoning are going to come from our extra deck, so we'll go through those later. But you play really powerful monsters that are incredibly hard to out, and if you pick the right one in a right matchup, it can win you the game. So if you're afraid of Harpy's Feather Duster, of stuff like that, Waking the Dragon is a good option to have. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. We certainly don't want too many other decks that are doing stuff with back row. So Heavy Storm Duster is a good way to pop those and take care of it. Almost considering running 3, just it's probably good to have 1 in the side just in case you're up against another trap card matchup. And if I was to sub it in, I might sub out that Macrocosmos for another copy. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. This isn't a great card, but this is just an answer to you know, the few monsters that will be summoned once you have some floodgates on board. What's important to know about Bottomless is that if a monster activates its effect and it bottomlesses, it's no longer on the field. So you know, skill drain won't negate that effect. So you got to keep that in mind. But you know, sometimes just a quick answer to a card will, you know, leave the opponent open. You know, any other trap card can go in this slot. You can be playing Compulse, you can be playing Ring. Ring is kind of nice because it does burn damage, which can end the game quicker, and you can do it after the effect. Actually, that probably means Ring is better to go in this slot, but you know. Just some trap cards to hurt the opponent. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Phantom Knight's Sword. This is a card that I play in barrier statues and other things, but I've actually been trying out some copies in here. So because we have a low monster count, we can be, you know, vulnerable to removal just because we have to dig for another monster. So Phantom Knight's Sword can protect our monsters from being destroyed, particularly by card effects. And what's nice is Phantom Knight's Sword also gives your monsters 800 attack, which is good if you don't have skill drain on board yet and you need your monster to have a little more attack. And of course, giving them more attack means that we're doing more battle damage and ending the game quicker. And that is definitely something we want. So it's definitely, you know, something I'm trying out. We'll see if I keep it in there, but I've been liking it so far. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. Now, this card, of course, may be a little suspect because, you know, if we have high attack monsters on the field, you know, who's going to be attacking over them, especially if the game is slowed down? Well, the truth of the matter is we don't always have skill drain on board, and when we don't have skill drain on board, you know, cards like Fusillar Dragon and Segmental Dragon are like 14 and 1300 attack respectively, and people will definitely try to run over those. So Storming Mirror Force is just non-targeting, non-destruction, sends things back to the hand. You know, pretty powerful card, and if your opponent runs into it once, they're going to want to start hitting your blind back row, which is a good way to have them trigger your Waking the Dragon. And, you know, that could be pretty powerful. Again, any kind of trap card can go in the slot, you know, so keep that in mind. It's just what I'm playing at this time. And then, of course, last in our trap cards, I am playing 2 copies of Trap Trick. There's a decent amount of normal traps in here. You know, we have our Heavy Storm Duster, we have our Bottomless, which could become Ring of Destruction. We got our Storming Mirror Forces. So nothing that's necessarily crucial, but Trap Trick just helps get stuff out of the deck, onto the field. It gets you what you need when you need it, which is pretty good. And, you know, and then you don't have to top deck a trap. You can top deck maybe Card of Demise or something like that. So pretty nice card to have in trap card decks. If you don't know what it does, you banish a normal trap from your deck, except Trap Trick, and then you set one card with the same name directly from your deck. It can be activated this turn, and after this card resolves, you can only activate one trap card. So that part is important to keep in mind. You want to activate your other stuff first. If you're going to activate Trap Trick and have other traps you want to activate, you want to chain them to Trap Trick so they activate and resolve before Trap Trick does. And that is it for our main deck. Next, going into the extra deck here, not too much to talk about. It's just my standard Waking the Dragon package, but I'll go over it for folks who don't know. These are all targets that are in here to summon off of a destroyed Waking the Dragon. When Waking the Dragon is sent to the graveyard or banished, I can summon a monster from my deck or extra deck. You know, as long as it's sent there by an opponent's card effect. And these are some of the best targets we can pull out. The first one here is Last Warrior from Another Planet. This is the one to pull out if your opponent hits Waking the Dragon and doesn't have any monsters on board. Last Warrior from Another Planet simply says, when this card's special summon, you destroy all their monsters you control, and then neither player can summon monsters. So, you know, if neither player can summon monsters, that definitely slows things down, and you can just beat them down with Last Warrior, and you'll either win if they don't have an out to it, or, you know, you'll buy yourself quite a bit of time. Do note that if Skill Drain is on the field, and it's not Harpy's Feather Duster, Skill Drain is still on the field, then this effect won't be activated, of course, so keep that in mind with most of your Waking the Dragon targets. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Naturia Exterio. Would definitely be up to 3 if I had a third copy, but for right now I'm just playing the 2. This one essentially can negate spells and traps, and it's not once per turn. All you have to do is banish a card from your graveyard and then send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. And if you do that, you can negate a spell or a trap. You know, certain matchups that live and die by their spell and trap cards. You know, Exterio is just an auto win. Pretty powerful target. To make up for my third Exterio, I'm just playing 1 copy of natbeast. It sends the top 2 cards of your deck to negate a spell card. Now, it doesn't cover traps, but come on, not too many people play traps. Spells are what you're really looking to negate, so having a Naturia Beast to substitute for that third copy of Exterio is just fine. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon. This is a 3,500 attack monster that's unaffected by other card effects. Pretty cool. Now, if Skill Drain is on the field before Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, that effect doesn't matter. But if Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon is on the field and then later you flip a Skill Drain, Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon continues his unaffected by card effects because he will be even unaffected by your Skill Drain, which is pretty sweet. And, you know, 3,500 attack monster that's unaffected by card effects. Pretty hard to deal with. You either have to figure out how to get over it by battle, you gotta have a kaiju ready for it, and in some unsuspecting matchups, they just cannot out this card. And that makes it a pretty powerful pick. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Geomathmech Final Sigma. If you summon it to your extra monster zone, it's unaffected by card effects except Mathmech cards. And so that just makes it Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, but with 500 less attack makes it a little easier to remove, but there is a bonus to Final Sigma if it does battle an opponent's monster and does battle damage through that battle damage is doubled. That's pretty cool and can definitely come in handy. Now, of course, keep in mind that effect doesn't matter if Skill Drain is on the field before this card, but it does if Skill Drain is on the field after this card. And then last, I am playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon, 4,500 attack monster that cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Not as good as being unaffected, because this one will never work under Skill Drain, regardless of which one is first. But the extra 1,000 attack over Ultimate Falcon means that if destruction and targeting is all your opponent has to deal with your monster, then Alternative is a great pick. 4,500 attack is very powerful, and you can even forego your attack to just pop a card with its effect. Pretty cool, awesome card to pull out of the deck with Waking the Dragon. And that's it for the extra deck. So that is it for my Skill Drain Stun Beatdown deck profile. This was a deck that I played such a long time ago. The last time Skill Drain was at 3, and it was always one that I enjoyed playing. I love just summoning the dumb giant attack monsters and just beating down my opponent with them while they cannot do anything. So while Skill Drain's at 3, definitely had to bring this deck back from the dead and give it another shot. Plenty of options that can be switched around in the trap card lineup. If 3 copies of Skill Drain is not enough and you want your monsters to get their attack, you can still play the 1 copy of Underdog, which is what I was using as a substitute before. And then there's other cards to consider, like Magic Drain and Dark Bribe to protect your trap cards. Just things like that. That can be considered in this deck, but it's very awesome. Very glad to have it and play it again. And Skill Drain is a big boost to so many trap cards and just non-combo decks that I'm definitely going to enjoy playing around with it for as long as we have it at 3. So you'll be seeing other deck profiles come up, especially some that are also going to utilize Skill Drain just to showcase what it can do while we have it at 3. And with that said, that's it for the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, do you like Skill Drain coming back? It's fine if you don't. I get why you don't. But let me know how you feel about Skill Drain, if you're playing Skill Drain in anything. And we'll catch you in the next one.